Thank you for coming to our big idea session this afternoon. I'm Sanish Monkar. I'm the founder and CEO of Legion. And I've got with me my colleague, Tracy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tracy Chernoff. I'm the Senior Director of Employee Engagement at Legion Technologies. And I was the former Director of HR at SMCP, which is Sandro Maj Claudie Pierlot, a luxury fashion brand that is one of Legion's customers.
Wonderful. And today we are here to talk about how do you maximize labor efficiency and employee engagement simultaneously. The key word here is simultaneously. I think over a long period of time, we've all, especially being in retail, we've struggled with getting these two outcomes for our, not just for the business from a labor cost standpoint, but also more important recently, past few years from an employee experience standpoint. But the big question is, can both of these things be done together? Is it a zero-sum game, or can each one of these objectives independently thrive? And what is the right way to do that? That's what we're going to talk about today, and Tracy is going to help me with a lot of real examples from her experience at SMCP. Okay? With that, let's dive in. So the key, and we'll jump straight into what the key is. The key is automation. That's our belief at Legion. When we think about workforce management, we think about automating workforce management. Why is that so important? When you automate the complex process of workforce management, you can guarantee certain results. You can say, okay, because of this automation, I will be consistently delivering certain amount of scheduled hours or certain amount of labor plans for my stores. That doesn't, it turns more into a science than an art. That's the power of automation. But here's the other interesting thing you can do when you're automating. You can also make sure employee goals are factored in. It's baked into the cake. When you are optimizing schedules for labor cost and for compliance, is also a great time to optimize the schedules for employee preferences, employee flexibility, and what they are looking for. And that is key, and that requires automation. Without automation, it's a very complex problem for your managers to figure out all the permutations and the combinations around creating the optimal schedule that satisfies all of these objectives. And that's what we've learned over the years. It reinforced our conviction around automation. And we believe with automation, you can now start meeting both of these objectives and start increasing labor efficiency, as well as making sure employees are getting what they want. So what do employees want? Some of this stuff is on the slide. When you think about from an employee standpoint, scheduling for them is more about, am I getting flexible hours? Am I getting better ways that I can control for me to work? And also increasingly so, how about the communication tools that my employer gives me? Are these helping me do a better job at work? If I'm running late, do I have the tools, even simple things like that, to communicate with my manager? Or do I have to rely on text messaging or calling, or even worse, not saying anything? And then the last one I want to actually talk about there is the earned wage access. We are now at a point in our society, and especially with these jobs, where financial wellness needs to be an objective for all workforce management programs. Initially, that sounds weird. What's workforce management got to do with financial wellness for the employees? Actually, a lot. With workforce management, with scheduling, you are in a position to control the amount of work that your employees are doing, more or less, or depends on what their preferences are ideally. But with accurate and automated execution of timesheet, you can actually enable earned wage access or instant pay instantly after the shift is over. And it's one of the biggest benefits you can drive to your employees that increase loyalty to you as an employer, increase employees' retention, experience, all of those things. So these are the things that we very strongly believe in. And again, the underlying factor here, it needs to be automated. Otherwise, it's very hard for managers to consistently do this week after week in all your locations. Okay? So we have a lot of data to prove that these are the right strategies. Every year since Legion was founded, we have, and that is now, we are in year 7 as a business, we have been doing this hourly workforce survey. And it's very fascinating for us to see that some things remain the same. Employees wanting flexibility remains the same. It's in fact, it's grown over the years. Now these employees that are working in retail have options. They can do gig jobs. They can be a door dasher. They can make the same amount of money as they would likely be making in retail as a frontline worker, but they can 100% own their schedule. So that's what you're competing with today if you're in brick and mortar retail. So schedules that meet their preferences is absolutely a simple but very powerful outcome that you can deliver to improve your employee retention. And we have lots of data. Happy to share the data with you. You can go to legion.co's website and you can download the report. It goes in all kinds of gory details of exactly why these metrics matter, what exactly is the impact, how you can, how you can think about, flexibility in various ways, all those things. The second is instant access to earned wages, as we talked about. It's now turning into table stakes. Last year, when we did this survey, that was less than 5%, that number. For the exact same question, less than 5% of the employees told us earned wage access would cause them to look for a different employer if your current employer does not offer that capability. This year is 37%. It's significantly moved in 1 year. We think next year or maybe the year after, but we are very close to that point where it just becomes table stakes, and it is something that if you don't have or if you're not working on right now to incorporate that as a benefit for your employees, you will have some hiring challenges and even retention challenges. It's really that simple. And last but not the least, more available shifts. So it is also partly a scheduling problem, right? When you think about flexibility or meeting preferences, more available shifts is also another version of a scheduling problem. These employees, they want to, maximize their pay, rightfully so. The wage rates are not very high, so the number of hours they work, and if they can control when they work and the schedule itself, it is absolutely an important outcome for them. So these are things we are seeing, and again, we have a lot of data that we are happy to share with you. So let's take a step back here. Those were some insights, but as workforce management, where are we going? Where is the industry going? Where is Legion? How is Legion supporting that evolution? These are the trends that we very strongly believe in. The move to the cloud today is not a projection. We are there already. Almost every single workforce management software purchased today is a cloud module or a cloud-based software. So this is not is it happening? When will it happen? No, it's happened already. We are on the tail end of that journey. The part that's most exciting to us are the other two pieces which are upcoming and trending at a very fast rate. Employee experience is a core goal of workforce management. 5 years ago or even 3 years ago, likely before the pandemic, if you read an RFP from a prospect on workforce management requirements, employee experience wasn't really a factor in there. It wasn't really about the employees. It was like the core workforce management objectives were cost optimization, timekeeping, accurate, punching in, punching out, compliance. It wasn't really about the employee experience. Now, the RFPs and the customer interest and the customer, requirements that we get, it's music to our ears, but we see a well balance between cost optimization and employee experience objectives. Is workforce management, is your workforce management product going to deliver these outcomes to the employees? The outcomes of flexibility, the outcomes of communication tools, the outcomes of shift swap, all of those things. And that is happening more and more. And I think, and again, this is something that we believe anybody looking for workforce management should make it a core objective for and make it your requirements. And last but not the least, and this is still, I think we are a little bit away from full automation, but it is coming. Workforce management in retail ops is one of the last frontiers of automation. And what we mean by that is, if you look at other things in retail ops, they have been automated to a large extent already. Inventory, supply chain, customer ordering, these things have been automated, and the store management in the stores just does exception management for these processes, except for labor, where everything is manual. Even if there's software, the decisions are made manually, and it's just not efficient. So the day is coming, we believe, and we are one of the companies pushing the envelope in that direction, but the day is coming that more and more of workforce management will be automated, will be touchless. There'll still be a good way for managers to do the things they need to do and override on things like that, but automation is the objective. Okay? And when we think about automation, real quick here, there are 5 tenets. When we think about automation, it's not a black box. That's the most important thing to keep in mind. It's not something that you lose control over. These are the 5 tenets when we think about automation of workforce management. Automated decision making, which is super important. How many people, when, where, demand forecast, should this timesheet be automatically approved? Should this employee preferences be automatically approved? All of those things are examples of automated decision making. Then there is automated execution. Now that you've made a decision, your workforce management system should be able to execute that. Then there is self-learning. Is it getting better? This is the real test, in my opinion, of true AI and machine learning based solutions. Without changing configurations, is your workforce management system getting better and smarter every day? Just by examining the data, the new data, and just by looking at how the users are using the system, is it getting better? And that should be a very binary question, yes or no. If the answer is no, that's not an AI-driven self-learning system. And you'll have challenges with that type of stuff because you're not evolving with your business, right? Last 2 are very important. Trust through transparency. Like I said, this is not a black box. When something is automated, it should be capable of also human intervention. It should be capable of explaining why decisions were made. So there should be full explainability, and it should allow for intervention and human control. So we think about automation on these 5 tenets, and that's how we are approaching our product build. And last but not the least here, from an automation standpoint, there are lots of benefits to automating workforce management. Increases efficiency and productivity. Managers don't want to spend their time managing schedules of employees. Their time is better spent with customers, with mentoring their teams, with managing the business. The schedules should be automatically generated, demand forecast should be automatically generated, timesheet should be automatically approved. That's 3 fundamentals that we believe in. It also optimizes every customer touch point. In omni-channel, it's very hard to figure out labor because each one of these may look like little versions of different businesses. So we are basically, saying with automation, you should be able to optimize every customer touch point. Allows you to react and adapt faster, and allows you to empower and engage your employees because employees are getting their benefits automatically. And maybe Tracy, you would want to, just from your SMCP experience, offer some insights into empowering and engaging employees?
I would love to. So to give a little bit of background as to why my former experience is important, is that one, I was behind the hiring of Legion as one of our vendors and our sole vendor for workforce management at SMCP. We contracted Legion, and I was the project manager for the rollout. So some of you might be thinking, well, why was a director of HR behind workforce management? It's because of my experience coming up through the retail stores, understanding the challenges that both employees and managers are faced with every single day. And when we think about engagement, it might not seem as intuitive to think, well, how can technology drive employee engagement? But actually, it's super simple, and it's really perfectly correlated. So technology can actually be a barrier for employee engagement, especially at a retail level, whether it's the manager or employee. And what Legion did differently in my experience, and now obviously I'm an employee, so hopefully that helps to understand how much I believe in our product. But Legion really focused on human centrism. With our mission to turn hourly jobs into good jobs, it was a mission that I had never heard before from a technology company. And so when you think about really at the root cause of what drives employee engagement down for a retailer, whether they're employees or managers, I should say hourly employees or managers, it's typically that they're not getting the tools and resources that actually impact their day-to-day. And so I always like to say you have to meet your employees where they are. So you meet your employees where they are so that you're actually solving their problems. If corporate leaders, business leaders are always implementing new tools that don't actually solve the day-to-day problems, then why are we implementing them? So with Legion, that was definitely a huge motivator for us, and I'll definitely share more about the business case there so I can give you some specifics, but employee engagement is at every aspect of the store experience, hospitality, it doesn't matter the industry. And then my final point on this is that great employee experience drives great customer experience. So from a business perspective, it is, again, super intrinsic.
Thank you, Tracy. And I think that was the why, which is super important. The how is automation. The employee preferences can get very detailed, very complex, and again, the more preferences you enable is good for the employees, but it becomes hard for the manager to incorporate all these preferences that could be changing every week into the schedules. And so you need to give managers the tools to make sure that they are not burdened with more work to actually deliver this outcome to the employees. The solution to that is make sure that's automated as part of the schedule generation process. Okay? And so, last but not the least, before I turn over to Tracy to dive deeper into the SMCP journey, everything I covered so far, that's why Legion was founded. Our mission is turning hourly jobs into good jobs. We have quantified what we mean by that too. From an employer standpoint, the three outcomes are improve labor efficiency, improve labor productivity, and reduce turnover. From an employee standpoint, the three outcomes are provide flexibility, improve experience, and deliver financial wellness through things like Legion Instant Pay. And we strongly believe that with those three things, the experience of these jobs, both from employer and employee standpoint, will start improving significantly. And that's the product that has been built and in hands of many mid to large size customers today is this intelligent, automated, and employee-centric workforce management. With that, Tracy, maybe you can drive the next slides.
How exciting, thank you. So we've talked about my experience. I'm gonna dive in deeper here. So again, SMCP, Sandro Maj Claudie Pirlo, is a French fashion house. Or I should not say we, when I was part of SMCP, I was the director of HR for North America. And prior to working at SMCP, I was actually an in-store HR manager at Target. I worked in New Jersey in a $100 million store. I had 400 employees, and I had the pleasure of scheduling them, and it was brutal. But actually, in the beginning of my career, that was when I first became familiar with the technology behind scheduling. And although at that time it was not driven by AI, I knew that there was a way to automate. And so when I finally ended up at SMCP, because of my in-store experience, I had the opportunity to find a workforce management solution. And I had looked at a ton, and it was so obvious to me that Legion was the leader in this space. Which is also why I'm here now as an employee, because when you believe in something, sometimes you just have to get behind it. And so when we think about some of the goals that led to the decision to bring Legion on as our workforce management solution, we absolutely had a critical need to increase productivity through labor optimization, through labor efficiency, and specifically by reducing the workload that was so manual, and I will get into that in just a second. Secondly, increasing profitability. If no business is thinking about profitability, they probably won't last much longer. Profitability is one of the most critical pieces to the puzzle, because without it, how can we employ more people? How can we give them more schedules, right? And then finally, we did have a huge need for compliance and risk mitigation. So reducing risk and overtime violations was incredibly important. And not only does it still remain important to SMCP today, but every single retailer that I ever speak to, one of the first questions is, well, how can we manage compliance? So to talk about first this first goal, productivity, I think at first people tend to think, well, how can labor efficiency, how can labor optimization actually drive employee engagement? Doesn't that mean that people will work less? But that's not true. 58% of eligible working Americans are earning an income on an hourly basis. So that means that the majority of Americans are in desperate need of having flexibility and predictability just like us. We are all at the NRF conference because we have the opportunity to step out of the office, whether it's at home or in an office building. And sometimes hourly workers don't have that opportunity. However, they have the same needs and the same demands, and that starts with flexibility and predictability. And one of my colleagues was joking, well, are you going to mention a barista today? And actually, I didn't think I was going to, but I am. We had a barista at our booth who was hourly and was so focused on the detail in delivering this amazing experience for every single person at our booth, which obviously we appreciate, and so did our folks who were visiting the booth. But I always like to bring it back to a specific example, because Zion, who was our barista the other day, he was so focused on the customer experience, and yet so many tools that are applied to support Zion are not focused on what actually supports Zion. So that was specifically at the root cause, and at the root, I should say, of what we were trying to solve for. How do we focus on SMCP employee needs? 60% of our employees were part-time. That means that they were working fewer than 25 hours on average a week. And there was a demand to have more shifts. There was a demand to make more money. There was a demand to earn more in commissions. And the only way that we could really do that was to optimize when they were working, so that we were using the same pool of money, but placing them in better spots throughout the week. So thanks to Legion's demand forecasting, we were able to fine-tune our approach and understand exactly when our peak days and times were, so that our best employees were working at the best times, which obviously drove up their paychecks and their engagement. And so I'm going to dive into this again a little bit later, but to move into this understanding of profitability, it makes sense, right? The more people are successful in selling or whatever the industry calls for, the better the experience is going to be for a customer, the better the experience is going to be for the business when it comes down to collecting those credit card swipes and the dollars at the cash register. With compliance, don't tell anyone from SMCP I'm telling you this, but we had a lot of compliance violations because we were not using a workforce management solution. We were using Excel. And I don't know if you all have used Excel recently, but there is no way to mitigate risk in Excel. And so once we rolled out Legion, within the first month, we reduced compliance violations to 0. So yes, that was 0 violations. My boss was extremely happy. Paris was extremely happy. And so that's kind of more of the understanding as to why and how we solved some of these problems. But these goals were all problems that we knew we needed to solve immediately. So I shared that I would kind of dive into this a little bit deeper. When I was at SMCP and I was rolling out Legion, before I rolled it out, I did collect data to understand how much time managers were spending, or maybe I should say wasting, since it's the end of the day at NRF and I can be a little, snarky maybe, but they were wasting 10 hours on scheduling end to end. That's creating the schedule, managing swap shifts, which we didn't even have technology for before Legion, managing call-outs, no-call, no-shows, attendance, everything that you think about when it comes to workforce management. They were spending an average of 10 hours. end to end. And once we rolled out Legion, within the first month, they were spending 3 hours. And this is the first month, so you think about how they're learning the new solution that we've implemented, and there's a training component, there's a change management component. So to reduce scheduling operations by more than 60% in the first month was an incredible win that we didn't even expect or anticipate. We thought maybe a few hours would be saved. But for those of you who may or may not come from stores, every single second that a manager spends off the floor can translate to hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And thanks to this data that I collected before we rolled out Legion, and the data that Legion and our delivery team and customer success team helped us with, we actually learned that the savings was 60% of time. And then at SMCP, we translated, well, what does this time mean? We looked at commission reports, we looked at sales reports, and actually there was a return on investment by 22% lift in sales. So that literally means that we increased our sales by 22% in just the first month. And that translated to hundreds of thousands of dollars. So you can imagine that the CEO of SMCP was like, how do we make sure Legion never goes away? And they're still using it today, which is something I'm super proud of, that we're all super proud of. And I want to break down a little bit, just briefly, that manager empowerment is a huge part of engagement. If a manager feels empowered, that translates all the way down, whether it's a part-time sales associate or seasonal sales associate, and throughout the entire organization. And today, SMCP is continuing to use Legion and the best practices, and SMCP has businesses in department stores and boutiques, so it was a huge success. Finally, when we think about engagement and how, again, technology bridges this gap for businesses to drive employee engagement, it's through empowerment. Through all of my experience in retail, the key to solving problems was ensuring that employees at every level of the organization felt empowered and were accountable for the pieces of the pie that they were a part of. So having a self-service experience, managing their punch exceptions through Legion, ensuring that they have their schedule at their fingertips. We rolled out Legion during COVID. I don't even have to go into what that means. Basically, we were able to use the demand forecasting to optimize so that when we were closed because of COVID, we were only opened on our peak days and times. So our employees felt supported because they were earning an income at the time that we knew that there would be people looking to interact with them. And beyond that, preference matching was absolutely a driver for employee happiness. There was 100% adoption of the mobile app. And today, we continue to see SMCP thriving in this space and really is as a leader in the retail world because of the relationship with Legion. So overall, I hope it's super clear, when you choose to automate parts of your business that can be time wasters, you are intrinsically driving employee engagement. And better engagement, I said this before, creates happier employees, better brand loyalty, and of course translates into greater customer experience.
Thank you, Tracy. That was fantastic. I think as it was very clear, some of these things could have not been possible unless you're thinking about both objectives, improving employee experience, increasing productivity and efficiency, but also doing it in a way that is not extra work for managers, it's automated, and it's part of something that everybody likes. So SMC was a great success story. There are many more like that, and happy to talk to you about any of those stories in detail. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, there are a couple of microphones here, so please feel free.
While you contemplate asking a question, one of the questions that I often get from retailers is how does the change management situation work when it comes to implementing a solution like Legion? And I get this question a lot because of what I've shared with you. What we did at SMCP was we actually found those who were super early adopters and really believed in technology, and those who were maybe a little bit more critical of new technology or new solutions, and we had them pilot and start the implementation of Legion within their stores to gain their buy-in as quickly as possible. It was a 6-week rollout. We called it the Champion Program because it was a way to drive better engagement as well, because here these employees and their managers are recognized for their critical thinking and their assessment of solutions that we implement. And so the buy-in, that's one amazing way to get buy-in for change management. But we'd love if there are any other questions as well. Don't all jump up at once.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
Oh, go ahead.
Just one question about how you come at demand forecasting. So that's always a tricky part. How do you anticipate what you're going to require? And can you provide any color or thoughts about what you found to be the most reliable demand signal for forecasting?
Yeah, I'll just give a brief overview and then we can talk about the question. So Legion uses machine learning for demand forecasting, and the advantage of using machine learning is you can synthesize a lot of data points, and not just data from your historicals, but also other data from things like local events and holiday calendars, and even all the way down to sort of weather patterns and things like that. So all these data points can be synthesized, not just from one location, but multiple locations. And the other advantage of machine learning is you can get very granular. So you can say, hey, I want my drivers to be sales, transactions, customer traffic, or a combination of all of these things, because that's what gives the best results. So that's possible, that's doable, and that's automated. With that capability, now it really is a great opportunity to rethink what you historically thought would be good drivers versus letting the data prove what the good drivers are now. That accurately drives the right amount of labor based on your business objectives. So for example, if the business objectives are conversion, right? If you're in retail, sort of, sales associate type of business and you're looking for conversion, maybe foot traffic is a great driver because now you can basically associate enough labor that will forecast on traffic. Or if it's some other type of business, maybe sales or transactions or a combination of it is both. But the key point is it is possible now to be far more precise and far more accurate than ever before, and that increases the opportunity now to rethink how drivers were thought about before because of lack of these capabilities. Okay?
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you all.
Thank you.